Hi, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Another week, another presidential crisis. President Trump has been turned in on a whistleblower complaint that alleges he made promises to a high-ranking Ukrainian official that were inappropriate. Chairwoman Pelosi has demanded the release of the whistleblower account, as is her right according to U.S. law. President Trump replied that given that he knows everybody listens in on all of his calls, is anybody dumb enough to believe that I would say something inappropriate with a foreign leader while on such a potentially heavily populated call? Sir, we have access to your Twitter account.
New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio has ended his presidential bid because no one likes him. No one. Not his mom, not his family, not New Yorkers. No one.
9 members of the VA's Eagle Next Community Center have been reassigned after Joe Marable, a Vietnam veteran, was found covered in fire ants with over 100 ant bites on his body. Reassigned. Not fired. Reassigned. The man was literally being eaten alive, one ant bite at a time, while these people were just going about their business. And the organization is reviewing what happened?
If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
Joe Biden has announced his plans to get 720 million women back in the U.S. workforce. As the U.S. only has 330 million people in it, 168 million of which are female, I look forward to the rigorous recruiting process of bringing 500 million females into the U.S., especially the hot ones.
Iran bombed Saudi Arabia this month, and the president tweeted that we were probably going to war over it, but we're not, and instead we're probably going to do some sanctions or something. It's worrisome that Iran is getting more aggressive and not less, despite international admonishment, and the chance that there's going to be a new war in the Middle East is on the rise. On the bright side, however, we're maintaining our 2 chief exports and imports from the Middle East: oil and good old-fashioned violence.
Israel has been unable to form a new government after its second election this year. Netanyahu's coalition lost seats, so he's unlikely to be re-elected. The largest blue and white centrist party, led by Benny Gantz, is now probably in the driver's seat. But they'll need to garner other support from other parties in order to get Gantz as prime minister. elected as prime minister. American liberals are excited about this change, but let me spoil the patty for you. No matter who's elected, there isn't going to be a fully integrated Palestine or a one-state solution.
Microsoft has invested $1 billion in Elon Musk's OpenAI project with the goal of achieving or surpassing human intelligence with AI. Microsoft has provided $1 billion to Elon Musk's OpenAI project with the goal of rivaling or surpassing human cognitive ability with computers. Sounds great. I can't imagine what could possibly go wrong with creating a sentient being that is way smarter than we are. I mean, it's not like we've used our brains, despite being one of the weakest animals on the planet, to dominate creatures like lions and tigers and bears and bison. So there's no reason to think that OpenAI is going to do that to us.
Astronomers are monitoring an object known as C2019Q4 at the moment. Discovered in late August, this icy body has held several clues that it is not from our solar system. Its speed was too great, its orbit too eccentric, and it wasn't going around our sun at all. The previous body not detected from our solar system a little over a year ago, Oumuamua, had an eccentricity of 1.2. This comet has an eccentricity 3 times greater. Gareth William, an astronomer for the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics, said this clearly isn't coming from our solar system. This begs the obvious question: is this just reinforcements for the raid on Area 51? Are there Naruto runners? Let me see them alien cheeks.
The UK's Boris Johnson was scheduled for a press conference in Luxembourg this week. He failed to attend after reports said he couldn't handle the booing from anti-Brexit protesters. In fact, the whole week went pretty poor for the Boer. Luxembourg's Prime Minister Xavier Bettel did not hold back and took potshot after good old Boris. European leaders have generally stayed quiet about Brexit, but they're clearly getting tired of the UK's MO. Boris tried to rally his supporters and his own resolve by likening himself to the Incredible Hulk breaking out of shackles. Mark Ruffalo, who played the Hulk in Avengers, quickly replied that the Hulk needed a team and some direction to be successful. Also, he noted that the Hulk is more destructive by himself, and that neither the UK nor Boris has a dual personality, nor were they exposed to gamma radiation. Furthermore, Dr. Banner was a foremost scientist of his time, completely unlike Boris. And finally, that the Hulk has a huge green dick. None of this qualifies Ruffalo as a voice for political insight, but it does raise some significant questions about Boris v. Hulk.
A New York fashion company is facing heavy criticism after releasing a line of hoodies featuring the schools of mass shootings. Not only did the hoodies have the names of the schools, but they were also riddled with bullet holes. The company, Beastroy, posted their line up on social media, which prompted a flood of responses from survivors, friends, and relatives of the victims. The common and obvious theme of the message was that this was a disgusting move to profit from the tragedies and people dying. The designers of the company responded that the message was about the irony of life and that we should be reminded about its fragility. Spoken like a couple of pseudo-intellectual assholes. This is all just a BS facade to paint over the fact that they want to use the shock value of dead kids to make a name for themselves in the fashion industry. We look forward to their upcoming t-shirt entitled National Guard 4, Kent State 0.
The Taliban have lifted their ban on the Red Cross in the region. Translation: the Taliban will no longer murder in cold blood any Red Cross personnel that they see. International Committee Chair Shirar Juan Pedro is happy that they've been able to come to an agreement about what the Red Cross does in Afghanistan. He and his organization faced major backlash a decade ago when they were teaching the Taliban basic first aid and providing them with med kits. They stepped back on those endeavors after 8 Red Cross workers were murdered in 2017. You know, way back in the day before they had reached an understanding about what the Red Cross did in Afghanistan. The media ran a ton of headlines this week stating that Colt is ceasing production of AR-15s to the civilian populace under the auspices that they had somehow bent to political pressure. The problem was that this was almost completely false. What Colt actually announced was a temporary stoppage of that production because there's a glut of AR-15s in the market right now and they weren't profitable enough. They also stated that they reserve the right to begin production anew if Beto is elected president because, and I quote, the period of time between his election in November and his actual taking of the presidency in January would be straight off the hook.
Saturday Night Live fired comedian Shane Gillis over making racist jokes. We don't have any skin in the Shane Gillis game, but isn't that kind of what comedians do? I mean, every Netflix comedy special makes fun of race, sexuality, or religion. Are we really extending zero tolerance cancel culture to comedians? I mean, can't we just cancel everybody and just start over? Because this is getting exhausting. Now, don't get me wrong, SNL has the right to hire and fire whoever they want, and we don't particularly think he's that funny, but what's next? Are we gonna cancel Justin Trudeau over doing blackface?
"18-year-old Tyler Flatch was arrested this week after stabbing and killing a 16-year-old boy in a fight in Long Island. According to reports, Flatch and a group of his friends jumped 16-year-old Cassine Morris in a dispute over a girl. Morris was stabbed during the assault and later died in the hospital. As disturbing as the incident itself was, what was even more disturbing is that there was a large group of teens watching and filming the incident, and no one helped Morris during or after. He just laid there and bled out. Everyone's a badass with these, right? We can make all kinds of aggressive comments and be super tough, but yet a kid stabbed and bleeding out on the ground and nobody does anything. This thing is not life. This is a time suck. This doesn't matter, and it's not going to make your life any better. If you're gonna let a kid bleed out over likes and shares, then maybe we actually need that AI to take over after all. And finally, in Florida news, a man and a woman were arrested after biking while intoxicated with no lights on. After being arrested, Aaron Thomas and Megan Mondanaro, a nice Italian girl, began having sex in the back of a police cruiser. When the arresting officer opened up the back door to stop them, Thomas took off into the middle of the night. Later, he was arrested in the nude at a Cold Stone ice cream parlor because after a DUI, a nice little romp in the back of a police cruiser, and a hardcore wind sprint in the nude, that sweet tooth really kicks in. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matthias Phineas.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and the Patriots have only given up 3 points this entire season so far. Yeehaw!